Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and let's just go and say that there's been rumors about an upcoming Sega game. I mean, we've heard claims out there that it might be exclusive to PlayStation, while other insiders claim that it's not. It's going to be multi-platform. So there has been a little bit of a back and forth online over this game, but you know what? Sega responded today, and they discussed the future of the Persona series, and they very well may have already given us our answer. So we will talk about that later on today, and then also another PS5 exclusive leaked out online, including its details, its release date, and even its reveal trailer. So this was not your typical leak, and we will get into all of that as well. Before we get started, though, do make sure to hit that subscribe and ring that bell. That way, every time I post a video, it'll be delivered directly to your device. It's a great way to get your daily gaming news dose every Monday through Friday, so don't forget to hit those buttons. But with that said, let's just go and jump right into the video, starting off with Dragon's Dogma 2. Fans of the series that are looking forward to the long-requested sequel is about ready to be more than just a little bit happy, because Capcom announced a Dragon's Dogma 2 showcase, which will go live on November 28th at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is only going to be a 15-minute long showcase, but here's the thing. There's some rumblings out there that this could possibly include a release date, and not just that, but a soonish release date. Yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2 might be a lot closer than what some of us may have originally thought, because interestingly enough, a PEGI rating surfaced online, and it claims that it will release on March 22nd. Now, that might just be a placeholder. I wouldn't look at that as some kind of definitive release date or anything like that, but if you've been listening to Capcom this year, they have mentioned several times that they do have an unannounced game that will sell millions of copies by the end of their fiscal year. Now, there's been a lot of speculation that could maybe possibly be the next mainline Monster Hunter game, but, you know, with this recent news in mind, they very well might be referring to Dragon's Dogma 2. Sure, this is an already announced game, but what Capcom might have meant by unannounced is that its release date isn't yet confirmed. So if you are a fan of Dragon's Dogma, which if you like RPGs, you should be, the first game was pretty good, and the sequel, it looks even better. But yes, you might want to tune into that showcase on November 28th. Now, don't worry, though, if you do miss it, of course, I will keep you in the loop. Next up here, though, Season 3 for Crash Team Rumble is set for December 7th, which includes a new Minefield Power, 2 new maps, some limited time modes, a premium battle pass, and most importantly, a very welcome crossover with Spyro the Dragon. Just like they did with Crash Team Racing, Spyro is joining the fray in Crash Team Rumble again on December 7th. The big question here, though, is while this is a nice inclusion, is it actually enough to get people interested in Crash Team Rumble? This game hasn't exactly set the world on fire so far, and, you know, even though I love Spyro, I also love Crash Bandicoot, but I'm not really sure if this will actually change much. I don't really foresee this game changing its landscape under its current model. Honestly, and I've said this before, but I think that it was a mistake making this a $40 game. Personally, I think that it would have fared much better as a free-to-play game, and who knows, they might eventually adopt that format, but if not, this game absolutely needs Xbox Game Pass. I believe that Xbox should make it a priority to have Crash Team Rumble among the first wave of Activision games for Game Pass. Now, of course, they're not going to be putting any of these games in until 2024, but I think that this should be among the first games that'll immediately inject some life into Crash Team Rumble, and for that matter, if they can get this game rolling, well, I mean, there's a lot of potential here for some other crossover characters beyond just Spyro. I mean, they'll have the whole Xbox universe in their hands. They could include Banjo-Kazooie, there's Conker, you have Raz from Psychonauts, Ori from Ori and the Blind Forest, maybe Steve from Minecraft, and I mean, there's just a lot of characters from the Xbox universe that they could pull from if they wanted to go in that direction. Now, I've actually said the same thing about Crash Team Racing in the past. Keep that in mind, Xbox. You can do some very special things here with the Crash universe. This could actually be their Mario with some different spin-offs and crossovers. I mean, I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Crash Team Racing could have a big future under the Xbox umbrella. I'm just saying. But for the time being, let's go and look forward to another Spyro and Crash crossover in Crash Team Rumble. Okay, so let's go and talk about this Sega situation, though, because there have been some rumors in the past. What exactly is their plan for Persona 6? This has typically been a PlayStation exclusive franchise, but a lot has changed over the last year or so. Xbox and Sega, they have a very, very good relationship, which includes the Persona series. Persona 3, 4, and 5 are all ported over to Xbox and Game Pass, and then Persona 5 Tactica, which just launched today, and Persona 3 Reloaded are also day one Game Pass titles as well. And then, of course, we have to talk about Nintendo. I have said this for years. It's never ever made any sense at all not to have Persona on Nintendo. As good as Atlus is as a developer, they make great games, but they're also kind of clueless when it comes to making business decisions. Here's the thing. Persona is a big Japanese franchise, and, well, which platform is the most successful in Japan? That is by far the Nintendo Switch. In fact, it right now is the third best-selling console ever in that region with 30+ million units sold. These games should have always been on the Switch. They should not have taken nearly as long to port these games over. And yes, I do imagine the Switch successor will also be a huge success. So, I mean, my point is, it would be a massive mistake not to release Persona 6 on the Switch successor as long as it's capable, which I do imagine that it will be. Truthfully, I mean, this franchise needs to be multi-platform so they can continue to grow the series in big ways. They need to properly build their audience across all platforms, and thankfully, it seems like Sega finally realizes that. In a Q&A, Sega was asked, is there a chance that with its overseas popularity, could the Persona series sell 5 million copies in its first year? And check out Sega's response. They said by increasing the number of platforms it is available on and the regions it is released in, we have been increasing the sales of Persona 5. We believe that it would be possible for a major Persona title, such as a numbered release, to sell 5 million copies in its first year by releasing it on multiple platforms and simultaneously a worldwide release from day one. So that is a pretty good indication that Persona 6 will in fact be a multi-platform title from day numero uno, just as it should be. I mean, I've talked about this with the Final Fantasy series before, but it's important to expose all fan bases to your long-running franchises. Not just one singular title, but to continuously expose them to a series time and time again, because that's how you build an audience over time. Now, Nintendo, I imagine Persona is going to have a lot of success on that series pretty much automatically, just considering JRPGs are very popular on their platforms. But as for Xbox, I think what Sega and Xbox are currently doing is very smart. Hypothetically, let's just go and say that Persona 6 does come over to Xbox day one. Well, what Sega and Xbox has been doing is that they've been exposing Xbox fans to games like Persona 3, Persona 4, and 5 through Game Pass. They are gaining fans as we speak. Again, Persona 5 Tactica just released in the Game Pass today. Go check it out. So not only does Sega automatically get a paycheck for those inclusions in Game Pass, which, you know, that takes some of the risk away, but they're also building that audience for Persona right now. 25+ million subscribers have Persona at their fingertips thanks to Xbox Game Pass. So that strengthens the chance for Persona 6 to find success on Xbox later on. Furthermore, is that if they keep bringing these games over to Xbox, this franchise will be even stronger on that platform 10 years from now when the eventual Persona 7 comes. I mean, you do have to think about the long term for these mainstay franchises, and clearly, Persona, I mean, that has a bright future ahead. I'm not expecting Persona 6 to be the last mainline title. I imagine it's going to be around for a long time, so I think that it's best to grow that fan base properly across all platforms. While I do think that exclusive partnerships make sense sometimes, especially for new IP or less established games, but Persona, you know, it's pretty established by this point. I think it's time, it's more than time by this point, for Persona to really expand its reach with a new numbered entry to PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo from day number one. This is good for Sega, it's good for fans, and it also assures that the Persona series has an even better future going forward. Okay, so Let's go talk about PlayStation here, though, because their next big exclusive leaked out online, and this reveals pretty much everything that we need to know. I mean, we're talking about its release date, its details, and even its reveal trailer. This is not your typical leak. Everything leaked out online. But thanks to Insider Gaming, it's now been confirmed that The Last of Us Part 2 is indeed getting its long-rumored PS5 remaster. Now, I don't think that that's earth-shattering news or anything. Honestly, it makes sense. I think most people was kind of expecting this, and, pretty much as soon as they announced The Last of Us Part 1 for the PS5, it was pretty clear that they were eventually going to do the same thing with its sequel. Obviously, the series has been a big hit for PlayStation, and they're also capitalizing on the HBO show's success. The Last of Us Part 1 saw a major surge once that show released, and I imagine if Season 2 is well regarded, then something similar may happen with Part 2 on the PS5. Maybe even the PC as well. Of course, the first game was, it's available on PC, so you can't rule that out. But the first thing that we need to go over here is the details. The Last of Us Part 2 is planned to release on January 19th, so you can go and mark that down. You're not going to have to wait too long in this case. And this edition will include a lot of extras compared to the original. You can see here posted up by Insider Gaming. It'll come included with a host of graphical improvements that will bring the beautiful yet dangerous world to life. Visual performance now outputs at 4K in fidelity mode. Improved loading times more quickly let you jump into the action. And then you have full DualSense wireless controller integration. It also has an entirely new game mode, being No Return, which is actually a roguelike mode. This might actually be one of the more interesting additions to this game, as it does sport randomized encounters, and you can play as several characters. So that could be really interesting, especially because, this is a pretty fun game overall. And then there's also new ways to play. It has lost levels that wasn't in the original game. There's new developer commentary. It'll have guitar free play, descriptive audio, and then lastly, it'll have unlockable character and weapon skins for both Ellie and Abby. So yeah, this will absolutely be the definitive experience if you like The Last of Us Part 2. Now, that is something that I will be interested to see, though. This isn't really like a much-needed remaster compared to other games. The PS4 version, it's already available on PS5 via backwards compatibility, and, it actually runs at 60 frames per second. So I'm curious to see how much interest a remaster will get, and even more so because of how divisive this game has been. The thing about this series is that the first game was highly beloved. Part 1 is pretty generally viewed as one of the greatest single-player experiences of all time, but Part 2, on the other hand, that was much more polarizing. It didn't really get that general love throughout. So some of its initial success on the PS4 can be owed to the first game and how much anticipation it had. But now that people have played Part 2, I am kind of curious to see how much excitement there is for another playthrough. And if there's an eventual third game, I'm also kind of curious to see if this sells as much as Part 2 did. Let me hear your thoughts, though, on The Last of Us Part 2. Do you like Part 2 or not? And if you did, are you interested in the remaster? Okay, so after I finished my recording, there was actually another update for The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered because Sony has now officially announced it. It is indeed releasing on January 19th, 2024, and pretty much the entire leak, it is all correct, but there is a little bit of a bonus here. So original PS4 owners can upgrade to The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered by paying $10. So that does change things a little bit here. You're not going to have to buy a completely new game, and that does make this a little bit more enticing, especially for people who did enjoy that first game. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, do you think AAA games have lost their creativity? The reason I asked this is because the other day, Digital Bros talked about how new IP isn't as viable as sequels. So I wanted your all's thoughts on this and how creative you see AAA games today. And the majority of you did, in fact, vote yes, they've lost their creativity. Now, based on the comments, several of you did point out that there are still some creative AAA games out there, like Alan Wake 2, as an example. That is probably one of the most creative horror games that we've seen in a very long time, if not ever. But at the same time, there are a lot of games that, might feel a little bit more formulaic. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That doesn't mean that they're bad games. In fact, they're often still great games. But maybe there's not really as many surprises as we used to see. A lot of AAA games anymore are huge spectacles with amazing graphics, and that's where they put a lot of their focus on. You know, they have a lot of focus on cinematics and stories and visuals. But yeah, I mean, it definitely looks like you all believe that there's not really a lot of creativity beyond that. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.